It is essential to be up to date on happenings around you, and to make that easy for you, ladies and gentlemen, we present Fresh Light, where we bring fresh newspaper headlines to the limelight. Mondays to Saturdays, 8:30 a.m. to 9 a.m. on Al-IyamoyeTv and radio. Watch, like, subscribe, and make sure your notification is activated on our YouTube channel. You can also like and comment on our pages on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Al-IyamoyeTv and radio.
A beautiful morning to you, wherever you're listening to us or watching us live on Facebook at Al-IyamoyeTv and radio, the 23rd day in the month of May 2023. A beautiful Tuesday morning, a wet one from this side of the Gateway State, Ogun State, Abeokuta to be precise. And of course, it is a beautiful one from the other side, watching us live on Facebook. Welcome to Fresh Light on Al-IyamoyeTv and radio, and a Fresh Light will bring to you different headlines from our different newspapers, perusing the pages of our newspapers and keeping you abreast of happenings around you. And of course, we would apologize for coming a little bit behind scheduled time, but we always work things together to bring to you great content, and of course for your listening pleasure. This morning I have different newspapers, a couple of newspapers with me, going through them this morning to read to you and give to you stories and headlines in the newspapers. My name is MODUPE AKINYOSOYE, and I have the Punch newspaper, I have the Vanguard, I have the Nigerian Tribune, and I have the Daily Trust with me, perusing that this morning. Let's start with the Daily Trust newspaper to see trending issues and topical headlines in the front page of the Daily Trust newspaper. You see this, Dangote refinery, a game changer. Buhari revealing that from the front page, coming with several riders also from the front page, but you get the details of that on page 4 in the Daily Trust newspaper. Away from that, also from the front page of Daily Trust newspaper, experts want Tinubu to insist on synergy among security forces. You also get that in the Daily Trust. CBN stalled intervention disrupts activities of Buhari's alma mater. You also get the details of that in the Daily Trust newspaper. Stakeholders reject renaming, of aviation ministry, want to return to transportation. More details of that also embedded in the belly of the Daily Trust newspaper. On Sudan crisis, Nigeria pilgrims to pay $100 airfare hike. Also away from that, you see from the front page of the Daily Trust, youth protest in Jos against killings and call for self-defense. Page 6 carries the body of that very headline. El-Rufai deposes 2 monarchs and district head. You also get the details of that on page 6 in the Daily Trust newspaper. And we also have an headline here in the front page. Supreme Court rules on suit seeking Tinubu and Shetima's disqualification on Friday. Page 13 captures that very story in the Daily Trust newspaper. And giving you a couple of stories, we'll start with Dangote refinery. Buhari statement says, Dangote refinery, a game changer. President Muhammadu Buhari yesterday expressed confidence that a 650,000 barrels per day Dangote petroleum refinery in Lagos will enable Nigeria to achieve self-sufficiency in refined products and have surplus for export. And given its processing capacity, the refinery is more than able to meet all of Nigeria's domestic fuel consumption, which is about 450,000 barrels per day, whilst the excess will be available for export. And speaking at the commissioning of the refinery in Lagos, which was attended by heads of state of Ghana, Togo, Niger, and Senegal, and a representative of the president of Chad, Buhari described the feat as a significant milestone for Nigeria's economy and a game changer for the downstream petroleum product market in the entire African region. A statement credited to Bukhari and the rest of that in the Daily Trust. Dangote Refinery, a game changer. Away from that, you also get this headline on Sudan crisis. Nigerian pilgrims to pay $100 airfare hike. The National Hajj Commission of Nigeria, NACON, yesterday backtracked on its promise that pilgrims would not pay extra cost over the $250 increase in airfare. The local airlines involved in Hajj operations had requested that a fare be increased by $250 over the crisis in Sudan, which would require a longer travel time to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. And the Sudanese airspace has been shut since crisis erupted in April. But speaking in Abuja during a training exercise organized for staff of NACON, state pilgrim boards, and private tour operators, Zikirullah Azan, NACON chairman, had assured that pilgrims would not be asked to bear the additional cost. From the Daily Trust on Sudan crisis, Nigerian pilgrims to pay $100 airfare hike. Away from that, we also have from the Daily Trust newspaper, avoid rivalry with military and others, Minister tells NSCDC. The Minister of Interior, Ogbeni Rao of Aregbesola, has warned men of the Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps, NSCDC, to avoid being in confrontation and showing unnecessary rivalry with the military and other security agencies. He also warned them to stay away from any acrimony that might undermine their responsibilities in dealing with the security and peace of the state. Avoid rivalry with military and others, Minister tells NSCDC. From the Daily Trust. Also from the Daily Trust, we have on the rising debt, a warning from the Director General of NILDS. Rising debt profile unhealthy for Nigeria. The Director General, National Institute for Legislative and Democratic Studies, Professor Abubakar Suleiman, has expressed concern over the rising debt profile of Nigeria and some other African countries. According to him, this is unhealthy for the nation. And Suleiman, who is a former Minister of National Planning, spoke on Monday in Lagos during the West African Regional Parliament Conference on Climate Change. The conference was organized by NILDS and Agnes. He also urged Nigeria and other African countries to collaborate with other continents to adopt policies to climate change adaptation and mitigation. From the Daily Trust newspaper, rising debt profile unhealthy for Nigeria, says Director General of the National Institute for Legislative and Democratic Studies. And quickly, still taking this from the Daily Trust newspaper, CMPA urges journalists on anti-corruption reportage. The Center for Media Policy and Accountability, CMPA, yesterday charged reporters covering anti-corruption agencies to support the implementation of the Nigeria Anti-Corruption Performance Public Reporting Project. Speaking in Abuja at a training session, Executive Director of CMPA and Project Manager Dr. Suleiman said there are disparities in reporting anti-corruption cases by the media organizations. He attributed this to absence of a harmonized reporting template. From the Daily Trust, you get the details of that and the rest to the story with the headline, CMPA charges journalists on anti-corruption reportage. Away from the Daily Trust newspaper, let's see the front page of the Nigerian Tribune newspaper. From the front page of the Nigerian Tribune, you see headlines, refineries first product to hit market end of July, says Dangote. You get the details with the couple of riders on page 6 in the Nigerian Tribune. On the 10th NAS speakership, over 150 opposition representatives elect meet and defer to governors and party leaders. You also get that on page 16 in the Nigerian Tribune. Away from that, El-Rufai deposes 2 Kaduna traditional chiefs. That's also resurfacing in the front page of Nigerian Tribune, and you get the details on page 28, 2 and 28 in the Nigerian Tribune. Away from that, you see from the Nigerian Tribune, the front page, 22 killed in Benue and Plateau. The very sad story. You get the details on page 25 in the Nigerian Tribune. And away from that, the Supreme Court to deliver judgment in PDP suit against Tinubu and Shettima on Friday. You also get the details on page 15 in the Nigerian Tribune. APC withdraws petition against PDP, INEC in Rivers. Page 4 captures that very story. And also page 2 with the headline in the front page. On the front page, Oyawoye, Africa's first professor of geology, is dead. The rather sad one. Away from that, newly inaugurated assembly plans to produce 500 train wagons annually, says Buhari. And page 7 of the Nigerian Tribune has that very story. And giving you the body of a couple of stories from the Nigerian Tribune newspaper. You see this one on May 29 inauguration. Buhari, President Biden announces United States delegation for Tinubu's inauguration. President Joseph R. Biden Jr. of the United States of America has announced the designation of a presidential delegation to attend the inauguration of Nigerian President-elect Bola Tinubu on May 29, 2023 in Abuja. And according to a statement by the White House late Monday, the Secretary of the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development, Honorable Marcia Fudge, will lead the delegation. And others in the delegation are Mr. David Green, United States Embassy, Abuja, the Honorable Sydney Kamlaga Dove, United States Representatives, California, the Honorable Marisa Lago, Under Secretary of Commerce for International Trade, U.S. Department of Commerce, General Michael E. Langley, Commander of U.S. Africa Command, the Honorable N.O.T. Ebong, Director, U.S. Trade and Development Agency. You get the rest of that in the Nigerian Tribune newspaper with the headline right here. May 29, President Biden announces United States delegation for Tinubu's inauguration. Away from that, also from the Nigerian Tribune newspaper, Supreme Court fixes May 26 to deliver judgment in PDP's case against Tinubu and Shettima. The Supreme Court on Monday fixed May 26, 2023 to deliver judgment in an appeal brought before it by the People's Democratic Party, PDP, against Bola Tinubu and Kashim Shettima of the All Progressives Congress. A 5-member panel of justices of the Apex Court, led by Justice John Okoro, fixed the date after all the parties involved adopted and argued their briefs in the matter. And while the counsel to the APC, Mr. Babatunde Ogala, senior advocate of Nigeria, asked the court to strike out the case since the 180 days stipulated by law to hear the case has elapsed, Mr. Joe Agim, also son, who represented the PDP, argued that the issue of 180 days does not apply because the matter of double nomination was purely an illegality, and because illegality cannot stand, the court has the right to entertain the matter. And he said the Apex Court will determine whether there was a double nomination and whether they have local standing that's legal right to do so. Supreme Court fixes May 26 to deliver judgment in PDP's case against Tinubu and Shettima, from the Nigerian Tribune. Also from the Nigerian Tribune, one of the parting gift from the outgoing president, Muhammadu Buhari, to the incoming president or president-elect, Bola Tinubu. Buhari to commission second Niger Bridge and 6 other projects on Tuesday. That's today. President Muhammadu Buhari will on Tuesday today commission the second Niger Bridge and 6 other legacy projects completed by the Federal Ministry of Works and Housing across the country. According to a statement issued on Monday by presidential spokesman Femi Adesina, the move is a follow-through on his administration's determination to upgrade and expand the nation's stock of infrastructure. The project to be commissioned comprised 3 major bridges, 3 federal secretariats, and a road. The statement affirmed that the event will be headlined by the second Niger Bridge, which was conceptualized in 2005. Buhari to commission second Niger Bridge and 6 other projects on Tuesday, from the Nigerian Tribune. And also from the Nigerian Tribune, we have this very story on presidential election, revealing that PPC refuses Atiku Obi's request for live broadcast of proceedings. The presidential election petition court sitting in Abuja on Monday, refused a request brought before it by the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, and that of the Labour Party, Mr. Peter Obi, and their party seeking live broadcast of proceedings of their petitions against the declaration of Bola Tinubu as winner of the February 25 presidential election. Atiku and Obi, along with their parties, adding their various motions prayed the court for an order allowing live broadcast of proceedings as well as an order directing the modalities for the live broadcast, citing national importance as reason. The petitioners argued that the issue of the live broadcast was not alien in the country. On the presidential election, PAPC refuses Atiku and Obi's request for live broadcast of proceedings. The rest of that you see in the Nigerian Tribune newspaper. Away from the Nigerian Tribune, let's see the front page of the Vanguard newspaper. From the Vanguard newspaper, we have different headlines, and you see headlines from the Vanguard. $21 billion revenue, 100,000 jobs coming from our refinery. Dangote revealing that from the front page of the Vanguard, and of course several writers, but you get the details of that on page 5 in the Vanguard newspaper. Away from that, also from the front page of the Vanguard, you see on Naira redesign, massive cash hoarding resumes. Page 19 captures that business story. Also from the front page of the Vanguard, Buhari to commission second Niger bridge via Zoom today. Page 11 also captures that. In the Vanguard newspaper, on Plateau killings, death toll it's 130 as Khan warns against reprisal. Page 6 captured that very unfortunate story. Also from the front page of the Vanguard, Northeast, federal government seeks funding for over 4 million malnourished people. Page 8 captures the story. Police rescue kidnapped soldier and 9 others in Benue. Page 6 also captured that story in the Vanguard newspaper. On presidential poll, why tribunal rejected live coverage, you get the details of the reasons right there on page 8 in the Vanguard newspaper. Again, armed herders Q18 behead women, children in Benue. The rather sad one, you get the details on page 7 in the Vanguard newspaper. And away from that, we also have in the front page from a sport headline, Yusuf Ugbade have no jobs with NFF. Gusau revealing that, and you get the details on page 30 in the Vanguard newspaper. And quickly giving you stories from the Vanguard newspaper, you have this very story on economy. Okay, the federal government said yesterday, from the Northeast, federal government seeks funding for over 4 million malnourished people. The federal government said yesterday more investment was needed to support the over 4 million persons experiencing hunger and malnutrition in the Northeast. The government and the United Nations urged international partners to support Nigeria with funds to address food shortage in the region. Shugra Mahamud, Director of Irrigation, Agriculture and Crop Development, Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development, spoke at the launch of the Lean Season Food Security and Nutrition Crisis Multi-Sector Plan 2023 in Abuja. Mahamud said many people living in Borno, Adamawa and Yobe, categorized as a Bay State, have been battling a nutritional crisis fueled by the security challenges in the region. Northeast, federal government seeks funding for over 4 million malnourished people. The Vanguard newspaper captured that very story. And also from feedback from the Dangote refinery, we have a statement credited to the Vice President-elect. Dangote refinery will stabilize Naira and impact lives of Nigerians, says Shettima. The Vice President-elect, Kashim Shettima, said the Dangote refinery will help stabilize the Naira and impact the lives of Nigerians. Shettima gave this assurance while speaking at the commissioning of the refinery in Lagos on Monday. According to him, the project had rubbished the stereotypical negative narratives about Nigeria and Africa as usually portrayed in the Western media. The former governor of Borno State described the inauguration as one of the greatest days in the nation's history. From Shatima, Dangote refinery will stabilize Naira and impact the lives of Nigerians, from the Vanguard newspaper. And also from the Vanguard, we have this business story. $12 billion revenue, 100,000 jobs coming from our refinery. Aliko Dangote also revealing that from the Vanguard. Amid encomiums from eminent personalities, including President Muhammadu Buhari and President of 5 other African countries, founder and President of Dangote Group, Alhaji Aliko Dangote, yesterday expressed optimism that the newly commissioned 650,000 barrels per day refinery would employ over 100,000 Nigerian youth and generate over $21 billion in revenue. According to him, this will save the country huge forex that would have been spent on fuel importation. He also disclosed that the first product from the refinery would hit the market towards the end of July this year, adding that the refinery currently has over 33,000 employees. 12 billion naira revenue, $1 billion revenue, and 100,000 jobs coming from our refinery, says Aliko Dangote. Quickly, let's see the front page of the Punch newspaper before we wrap it up on FRESHLIGHT this morning. From the front page of the Punch newspaper, you see Dangote refinery as well. Petrol eats market July. Federal government to save 7 trillion naira. You get the details of that on page 25 in the Punch newspaper. Also from the front page of the Punch, Tribunal reject live broadcast. Supreme Court decides anti-Tinubu suit on Friday. You get the details also from the Punch. My admin boosted Navy's capacity with 20 ships. Buhari revealing that, and the belly of the Punch newspaper captures the very story. Operators fault removal of NAMA managing director. You also get the details of that in the Punch newspaper. Governors-elect protest as outgoing governors shun transition panels. You also get the details of that in the Punch newspaper. And quickly going through the Punch newspaper this morning, we'll start with the governors-elect. Governors-elect protest as outgoing governors shun transition panels. There are strong indications that the transition process is not going smoothly in many states, as the outgoing governors are allegedly not cooperating with their successors. Following the developments, the panel set up by the incoming governors are asking questions on the financial conditions of a state, thus generating tension. In Zamfara State, Governor Bello Matawalle was accused of not cooperating with the incoming administration of Dauda Dari ahead of the inauguration on May 29. The publicity secretary of the People's Democratic Party in the state, Farouk Ahmed, in an interview with The Punch on Monday, stressed that since Matawalle lost his re-election bid, he had abandoned the state and had been avoiding the governor-elect. From the Punch newspaper, governors-elect protest as outgoing governors shun transition panels. Away from the Punch newspaper, we also have this one right here: devolve power to state and curb importation. Akeredolu tells Tinubu. The Ondo State Governor Rotimi Akeredolu has called on the President-elect Asiwaju Bola Tinubu to take the issue of power devolution seriously in his administration for a fast-track development of the country. Akeredolu, who is also the chairman of the Southern Governors Forum, reiterated that the power at the central was too overwhelming and needed to be devolved to the state. Devolve power to state, curb importation, Akeredolu tells Tinubu. From the Punch newspaper. And we have a Metro story from the Punch revealing that 4 in Ogun Police net for killing herdsmen. The Ogun State Police Command has confirmed the detention of 4 suspected killers of a herder whose body was dismembered at a village in the Mekwafon local government area of the state. Correspondent last week reported that the Amotekun Corps in the state arrested 2 of the suspects and handed them over to the police. It also reported that 2 others were nabbed by the Oyo State Police Command and were later handed over to the Ogun State Police Command for prosecution. The state police public relations officer, SP Abimbola Oyeyemi, on Monday confirmed the detention of the 4 suspects, Akinyele Adebayo, Gbalo Idosu, Biola Shego, and Karim Lano, arrested in connection with the death and dismembering of the header, Komaru Aliyu. 4 in Ogun police net for killing ex-man. The Punch newspaper captured from the Metro page. And away from that, straight to, still with the Punch newspaper, of course, and straight to the sports pages, running it off with a sports story right here from the Punch. Flying Eagles will be clinical against Italy, says Bosso. Flying Eagles coach Ladon Bosso has promised that his team will be more clinical when they take on Italy in their second Group D game on Wednesday. And the 2-time Under-20 World Cup finalists are to come from a go-down to beat the bottomed Dominican Republic 2-1 on Sunday, squandering several chances. An own goal from Guillermo and second half Samson Lawan strike completed the Flying Eagles comeback after Edison as Kona scored from the spot and them the lead after 23 minutes. The rest of that from the Punch newspaper. Flying Eagles will be clinical against Italy, says Bosso. And definitely we'll be drawing the curtain right here on Fresh Light on Al-IyamoyeTv and radio. Thank you so much for always watching and for always commenting. Don't forget to follow us on all the social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Al-IyamoyeTv and radio. Follow, like, comment, and also subscribe to our channel. I remain MODUPE, AKINYOSOYE. Thank you so much for listening. Good morning.